Today's date is Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023. We've gathered for this work session to discuss elements of the charter transition work. And I want to start by just saying I am really looking forward to this work session as well as subsequent work sessions on the transitioner. This is in large measure in response to comments I've heard from my colleagues, comments frankly I share, that we should all hear the same information at the same time and have the opportunity to ask questions. I assume we're all under the understanding that we want the transition from the current commission form of government to the new form of government to be as seamless as possible. And I think there's a lot of opportunities here. First of all, we'll have 12 new city commissioners and a new mayor coming in on January 1st, 2025. I expect their plates will be very full with the issues confronting the city. And it's my hope and expectation that on top of trying to figure out where everything is at City Hall and how things work, they won't also have to spend a considerable amount of time transitioning to the new form of government. It's my expectation that this will be turnkey and it will be a seamless transition as we've all described previously. Moreover, I think it's worth noting that if we want to recruit a city administrator, which we will, Michael has been very generous to step in on an interim basis, but if we want to recruit a quality city administrator, it's important for us to be able to identify what that job will be. And in fact, it would be best if we had it up and operating prior to attempting to recruit a qualified city administrator. The public has asked us clearly to move in a new direction. They've asked us to move to a form of government that has not been tested anywhere. As such, I expect there'll be a lot of challenges. They've told us they want to break down the silos that currently exist in the commission form of government. I cannot underscore enough how much work there is to do in order to complete most of this transition work by January 1st, 2025. It requires a new organizational structure. It requires significant systems alignment. It requires new facilities to accommodate the larger council and staffs and even model this chamber so that it accommodates those staffs. And there are many other things that need to be done as well that we're going to hear through these work sessions. I want to be clear, it is a burden. I understand that. I understand that this is tough on the council. I understand that this is tough on our bureau directors. I understand that this is tough on our city employees. But again, it is what the public has demanded that we do. It is their decision how they want to be governed, and they have dictated that this new form of government is the way they want their city government to work. And as the employees of the public, it is our job to faithfully implement their wishes. And that is absolutely my intent. Last Tuesday, I sent my fellow commissioners a letter outlining my desire to be fully transitioned ahead of the new mayor and the new city council taking office on January 1st of 2025. More specifically, I shared my perspective in my letter on how to implement an acting city administrator role, align the budget process, and make necessary physical changes to accommodate the larger city council more effectively. What I outlined is an alignment with recommendations from the charter transition team, and it's been informed by the work that they've led among bureaus and the public over many months. It's my understanding that Commissioners Gonzalez, Ryan, and Rubio have jointly developed an alternative proposal in terms of structure. I haven't seen it yet, but I look forward to hearing more about that. And I'd highly encourage my colleagues to schedule a work session in the coming weeks so that council can discuss that proposal and others and discuss the best path going forward. Given that my colleagues will obviously need time to prepare for that discussion, today's work session will focus on updates around fiscal year 24-25, the budget development in particular, and timely decisions regarding the renovation of council chambers and council offices. I've called this work session to ensure that all offices have the most up-to-date information and have the opportunity to ask whatever questions people would like to ask, and also to provide me with any feedback that you'd like to provide me with. With that, I'll turn it over to our presenters, and I'll let you take it from here.
Mayor, may I ask a quick
Commissioner
question?
Gonzalez.
I just wanted to clarify, was there a run-of-show agenda or any advance readings for this work session?
All of the items pertaining to facilities have already been made accessible to the council offices. And
Is your mic on, Haley? Can you slide it closer? It's a little hard to hear.
my understanding is that all of the materials related to the facilities piece that we'll be discussing today have already been historically provided and overviewed with your office and the charter transition team. And then the budget piece is really just us giving a first look at a timeline we've been developing and things that you can anticipate related to budget development. So no big reading items before heading here.
That's helpful context. Mayor, this is the second session in a row where I walked in without the opportunity to have advance read. The fall bump, it was a similar experience. So just a request going forward, when we call these work sessions together, it would be a courtesy to your colleagues that there's a clear agenda. If there's advanced reading materials, it would be appreciated so we can contemplate what we're going to tackle.
I don't believe there are advanced reading materials. This is an open work session. The purpose and the agenda is the transition.
Okay, that wasn't clear, but in advance, but thank you.
Please feel free to have your staff reach out to mine. We meet regularly. Bobby, you meet with his staff on a regular basis. Commissioner, I meet with you at least weekly. Feel free to chime in.
There were a number of requests for agenda items by my office in advance of this session, and we're not
Who
received.
did you send it to?
Shock and Bobby can coordinate on that.
Bobby, did you receive it? Can you come to the microphone and answer the question?
I have not.
Did you receive an email from Commissioner Gonzalez?
No.
Thank you. All
Can
right,
I have Shaw Smith come up and,
so it's not Shaw, it's TJ.
No, I think we both did. I asked actually Haley yesterday for an agenda and I read it.
Okay, were you not aware that today's work session was about the transition? It was in the newspaper.
We knew that, but we were
You did? Okay, great. Well, then why don't we get on to it? Go ahead,
Last
Haley.
week,
I have-
the mayor's office.
Commissioner Ryan.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm glad we're having a meeting where
Thank
we're
you,
all
me
hearing
too.
the same information at the same time. Just to go back to something that was said earlier, because I'm most attached to making sure we have open dialogue about the org chart. And it made it sound like you hadn't seen that draft, and I know that you've seen that draft.
My understanding is there's a letter that is attached to the draft. I've not seen it. I read an article yesterday that quoted sections of a
But
letter
you
that
did
was
see
apparently...
but you did see the org chart draft.
I've seen the org chart. I
'Cause
haven't
we-
seen the attached
I just want to make sure we
documents.
were in the same meeting at the same time last week.
Right.
Okay, great. So anyway, we've been
And I
transparent
look forward
about
to it.
that.
As I
Thanks.
said, I look forward to having work session on that document so that we can discuss it in an open chamber and hear what your thoughts are and ask questions. That's what we're doing. And
Good
these are
morning.
voluntary work sessions. If people don't want to be here, you don't have to be, but I would encourage people to show up. Now back to the presentation.
Good morning. My name is Haley Blomsley. I am a senior budget and policy advisor in Mayor Wheeler's office. And as Mayor Wheeler said in the letter y'all received last Tuesday, we outlined the 3 points that we wanted to hit for this work session, but we're going to skip through the org chart and city administrator conversation and focus primarily on the budget and facilities today. So I'm joined by Director Tim Grew from the City Budget Office, and we are basically just going to make y'all aware of a couple things that we're going to be navigating over the next couple months as we move into budget development. As you all know, we're facing a very difficult budget season for the coming fiscal year. We have many one-time federal funds expiring, a lot of financial needs tied to bargaining, city infrastructure, charter transition, and more coming to the forefront. And we know that fiscal year 24-25 will be especially unique because it's going to be straddling the two forms of government. So in terms of setting setting the stage for budget development, we just want to have everyone keep in mind that this budget is in itself a critical process that needs to transition to align with the new structure. It is also a primary tool by which we will facilitate the rest of the city's transition to the new government structure. And so today we're going to provide a high-level overview of some of those financial challenges I mentioned, what you can anticipate in terms of process and timelines as we're moving to a more centralized budgeting system. We are aware of the council's concerns related to costs of charter transition, particularly costs of staffing for expanded elected offices and other positions within the draft organizational charts that have been floating around. And so we have scheduled a work session. It's already on your notables calendar for Tuesday, October 31st, where we're going to better understand those costs and also focus on the potential funding mechanisms for those costs. In addition, the timeline CBO will share highlights the many budget work sessions to come. I see Commissioner Mapps nodding because he knows that they are many and often. And we're more than happy to note questions that you might have about budget items today, but we're going to focus our time on process updates rather than budget content. So with that, I will go ahead and move our slideshow forward and hand it over to Director Grew.
Thank you, Haley. Good morning, Mayor.
Actually, Tim, before you start, let me ask just a quick run of show question. So at some point today, are we going to be talking about the physical space issues and the space next door? I have some staff who are not in this meeting right now, who I might want to have in the room for that discussion, but I don't want to pull them out of meetings that they're currently in if we're not going to get to that.
The facilities discussion will happen right after budget. So if y'all want to have them come in maybe I'd say 10 minutes, that'd be a good estimate.
Perfect, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Morning.
Members of the council. I think you'll find that my presentation will be somewhat brief today because much of what we're talking about on the budget process is a work in progress and will be finalized once we have good guidelines from the mayor's office. So today I want to also cover financial issues broadly that we will be addressing during the 24-25 budget process and some of the advantages of moving towards a more centralized budget process. I will then review phases of the budget process, including some of the options noted in the mayor's September 26 letter to the council. This presentation, as I said, should be a work in progress, and I will keep you posted as we further finalize the process going forward. Next slide. Oh, you're on it. So this is probably a chart that you've seen me address with you previously. It's being updated more than I would like. But these are the financial issues that we'll need to address during the forthcoming budget process, in some cases, maybe even the budget process following that. For police and fire, as you know, in the fall bump, which will be before council this week, an additional $18.5 million was allocated for projected overtime and personnel costs. It's very likely that there'll be additional appropriation requirements as we proceed through this budget process, the 24-25 budget process. Work is also underway to identify the costs and funding options for the charter transition, both for personnel and facilities, and that work is underway and will be coming to you in conjunction with the resolution that's coming before you. Measure 26-217 requires a 5% set aside of the police bureau's, equivalent to a 5% set aside for the police bureau's budget. That accounts to about a $13 million allocation. While options for improving and maintaining the Columbia River levee are still under consideration, it will likely require some significant financial investment from the city. As indicated in the council work session, PBOT is facing a $32 million in ongoing cuts. Finally, there's the issue of what I refer to as the financial cliff, or programs and projects supported by one-time funding, including ARPA, that will be ending but may require recurring funds, such as the homeless program and ongoing public safety issues. Next slide.
So this next slide focuses on some approaches that we're going to be taking to try and best centralize the budget process for the next fiscal year. So if you'll recall, in fiscal year 22-23, each bureau presented their budget to council individually and overviewed their decision packages. In the following year, 23-24, the bureaus presented their budgets but grouped within their newly defined service area. And so fiscal year 24-25 will largely mirror those processes that we've run over the last 2 years. But the big difference is that, the key change will be that the mayor's budget guidance will ask service areas to produce a cohesive, integrated budget, meaning any potential ad requests as well as any potential cut exercises will be submitted by service area, not by bureau. The mayor's office will continue to convene work sessions with the soon-to-be-determined service areas to learn more about their financial situation, needs, and pain points. And the budget guidance will also direct that those service area budgets come to the mayor's office for review as he develops his proposed budget. As it says on the slide, we want service areas to think strategically about how to pool their resources and navigate potential constraints as a team. And the mayor's office is working with CBO to create process guidelines and evaluation standards to help bureaus adjust to this new way of budgeting. And we're also thinking through how to appropriately support service areas in doing that work.
Go to the next slide. I want to take you through a series of slides on components of the budget process. This first slide is the usual phases that we go through on a budget process. As you can see, the preparation phase, in November, the mayor's budget guidance will be issued. And as I said earlier, at that time, we'll have a more refined budget process going forward based upon those guidelines. Then in December to February, requested budgets by service area will be due. And then in March through April and early May, actually, we'll work on the mayor's proposed budget as we have in the past. Following that, we get into more of a legal type of process with the budget committee. Mayor's proposed budget will be released on May 2nd. The approved budget hearing will be on May 15th, and the adopted budget will be no later than 6/12. These are dates that you are used to based upon your prior experience in the budget process. Next slide. I want to drill down a little bit further in this chart. The budget preparation phases may proceed in October. Bureaus will be working with the CBO on revenue and expenditure forecasting. And I wanted to point out that consistent with a budget note approved by the council, a work session would be held in the early process on 11/7, November 7, for the utility and other bureaus to discuss their overall financial pictures for the 24-25 budget and beyond that will guide them in formulating their budgets and financial plans. CBO is also recommending that a work session be scheduled with the council to designate priorities for the budget process going forward. The mayor's guidance on the budget formulation will be distributed in November, as I said. In December, the budget process will be kicked off with the issuance of general fund forecast and CAL targets. During January and February, work sessions will be held by service areas and requested budgets distributed by the end of February by service area. Next slide. This chart shows the activities following submission of Bureau budget requests. During March, the CBO will review all requested budgets with a focus on key issues and consistency with the council priorities. Bureaus will also have sessions to brief the mayor on their requested budgets by service area. There will also be a session on utility rates during this period of time, and this will be earlier than we've had that discussion in prior years. In May, after the mayor's proposed budget is released, additional work sessions and the budget will be approved on May 15th. In June, we will have the required TSCC hearing. Council will hear further testimony from the public, and the budget will be adopted.
And with that, we're happy to take any questions.
I have two quick ones, and I apologize if this was in one of your slides, and it might have been, and I just missed it. Director, how much is implementing charter reform going to cost this fiscal year? And how much do we estimate implementing charter reform will cost in the coming fiscal year?
Commissioner, I think, as I said in my statements, we're working on that document right now. We've isolated all the new personnel. We're working with facilities on the costs associated with that, and we hope in the very near future we'll be able to come to you with a very detailed costing, but not just costing, also how we may reallocate on some of those cases, where it may be something new that we need to have council make a decision on. All of the funding sources will be included in that process, and that'll be in conjunction with Michael Jordan and his presentations.
Okay, so basically it's too soon to tell for the next fiscal year. How about for this current fiscal year? How much do we anticipate spending to implement charter reform?
We have right now allocation within the budget. Do you remember the dollar amount by any chance? I'm sorry, I don't have the dollar amount in my head. I'll be glad to provide you with that after this meeting. And in part, again, the funding that we're talking about will include anything that needs to be done this year, but also going into the next year, the 24-25 budget.
Okay, I think I remember there's both, and I don't have these numbers, unfortunately, fully in front of me now, but just so I'm tracking, I seem to recall that we have a certain amount of dollars already set aside this fiscal year for charter reform, and I believe the mayor's proposed bump also includes some dollars, adding some dollars for implementing charter reform. Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
And I
Thank you.
apologize again. I'll be glad to get those numbers to you right after I leave here.
Not a problem at all. I know there's a lot of stuff going on.
And Commissioner, that 1031 work session will be covering a lot of that because a lot's been through the Salary Commission and other bodies that have finalized their work will have stronger figures to bring you.
Okay, great. And actually, I'm glad I've opened up this dialogue a little bit. One of the things I'm really interested in, and we have to figure out before we can cost this out, is what new staffing patterns look like. And we've talked a lot about, well, we'll hire the new city administrator and maybe some deputies. I would assume that there would be support staff around that too. I get the impression your office has been working on a staffing study, and I think it must be due any minute now. How's that going?
We believe that we've identified all the personnel via the organizational chart
Oh, great.
that we will be providing financial information with. And I should have said at the beginning that we're working very closely with the OMF Business Operations Group and my staff in doing this report. So I think we will cover most of what you've asked.
At the October 31st session?
Yeah.
All right, if I can get a briefing beforehand, that would help me too. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Those are all the questions I have at the moment.
Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, just a couple. Thanks, Tim, for the process. It was very helpful to see the map. It looked really similar to the maps I've seen in the last few years that I've been on council. And since we're having a conversation about the transition, and the mayor, along with some former senior advisors, put together these work areas for this year, and then we're talking about how we move forward in the new form of government to have these work areas. I was surprised not to see, or I couldn't see from that map, that those are being embedded into this process, because I'd like to see us start to behave in a way that we're moving towards a new form of government. So I'd like to see that the budget reflects that in the work areas, and that wasn't evident in what I just saw on the map. Could you clarify that?
I think you'll find that there'll be more council work sessions early on in the process and during the mayor's proposed budget. And the big change there will be, there'll be by service area coming to you. Also, I mentioned that we're going to have a session with the council to make sure that we identify the priorities for the budget process going forward. And, usually priorities aren't a single year type of thing. It'd probably be a multi-year type of thing. That gives my office the ability to do reviews based upon those priorities when we get the submissions from the bureaus.
Yeah, I mean, the real opportunity is to break out of those silos. And when we talk about the priorities, start to see how that works together. So I'd like to see some edits to the map so it makes it more clear that we're actually leaning into this new form of government in the new work areas and not do silo-based budgeting.
Here, here.
had one follow-up. Could you go back to the slide that shows commissioners' role in the new budgeting, proposed budgeting cycle? I think it was a couple slides back. This one right here. So building off Commissioner Ryan's point, just a general observation, we're going through kind of a strategic plan refresh for all the bureaus I oversee, and I think it'll tie well to the budgeting process. But the bottom right, can you just describe, it says council will continue to be engaged in work, and then what are you envisioning are going to be the differences in how commissioners engage with the budget in the next cycle versus the one we just went through? I'm just trying to understand what you're trying to tackle there. I appreciate the work sessions early on. I think that's that's helpful, but just to clarify where you're going with that.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think we were just trying to make sure to call out that even though we're saying that we're going to be, encouraging the bureaus to be a true service area, that our office, the mayor's office, is going to be convening those groups, that council still has a clear role for engagement with those work sessions, with those budget packages that are going to be put forward. And so we just wanted to make sure that that was specifically called out so that folks didn't get confused that just because we're moving towards centralization, that doesn't remove council from the process of helping to develop and shape what we ultimately pass as a city budget. So that was the goal. It's just to specifically call out that role and make it clear that that's not changing.
And is the centralization, so the question of centralization is really one that's deeply embedded in all of the charter reform implementation. I mean, that carries over to a whole host of architecture questions we're going to have to tackle in the next 15 months. And I just am trying to, that description is helpful. I'm certainly supportive of conceptualizing the budget as service level area. I think there are a lot of advantages to that. I just want to be clear that, I'm not quite ready to delegate any authority with respect to budgeting that is given to commissioners under our existing charter. And I just want to make sure that we're not implying that we're handing off any budgeting authority on that section. I don't think that's the intent, but I want to be crystal clear.
As I said, a lot is staying the same of how we've always done things. The focus for us and the intent of this presentation is to say more directly, kind of put the bureaus on notice that we're really expecting them to be a team in this coming fiscal year. And I hinted that we tried that in the last fiscal year, but what we got was a bunch of individual proposals that were just they joined their PowerPoint slides, and we appreciated the effort, but this time we're really going to go for the gold and have folks put together a true joint package. And so that's the focus for this presentation.
And just to be clear, if I wasn't before, the council will still convene as the budget committee and approve for purposes of authorizing the approved budget and also the adopted budget.
Got it. And I don't want to.
Frankly, that won't be different in the new form of government, but it'll be a 12-member council.
And not to belabor the point, but I think the tie between budget and strategic priorities is essential. So that's why I'm sort of tying it back to the process. Some of us are already engaging with our bureaus, thinking through the next 2 years until the first 6 months post charter reform implementation, much less longer term, that those strategic priorities need to be shaping how we think about budget as a service area. And I'll just leave it at that.
And I'll just add, Commissioner, that I think you're speaking really well to that third pillar, that coordinated financial planning piece, because for what we're doing in terms of coordinating our revenue and expenditure projections, just being aware of those big issues as a citywide structure, that's something we really need to focus on in the coming years to make ourselves stable fiscally. And so I think that your point about just the planning that you're already doing, we want to bring that, share it with the full team across the board so that we can all be aware of what we need to do and change.
Right, and I may have went over it too quickly, but I think you'll see on the chart that we're trying to get you involved in the financial plans much earlier this year, including rates and that sort of thing.
Which is very much appreciated, given the utility experience last year.
Then also the council priority session. As I understand the mayor's letter, his intent is to have you involved in most of the work sessions leading into the mayor's proposed budget. So.
Okay.
Mayor, so just to add to that, and I think to build on the earlier comment, so as governance leaders, that's what we are, and we're voted on by the entire city. in our work areas, we provide that governance leadership, just like we used to do, if you will. I'm pretending now it's in the rearview mirror, because it really will be soon. Over bureaus, we take that same focus and role clarity with the work area. And if anyone would have a problem with that, then we would then wonder why we're serving the city of Portland that we all love up until December 31st of 2024, correct?
Yes.
All right, no games, like that's how we can operate. Makes sense.
Yeah, I want to be clear, this is not radically different than the way we do it now or the way that I've managed budgets in the past. The difference is the service area. And I think we're all in agreement that the service area alignment makes a lot of sense because it primes the pump on what will eventually be an enterprise budget as opposed to even a service area budget. So I think this is a great intermediate step.
Thank you. I'll hand it off to Barry to take you through the next piece of the presentation.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. I'm Barry Pack, Senior Advisor to Transition and Special Projects in the Mayor's Office. I'm joined by Maddie Sauter, the Manager of Division of Asset Management, and we're here to talk, and members of her team who will introduce themselves later. We're here to walk you through about a dozen slides about potential facilities renovation and timelines. There are three options that you were provided information about last week in a memo from Maddie and I. We have some more detail behind that at the request of your staff to walk you through, and we are at a point where decisions need to be made in order for the project to continue forward. We are at a point where our construction manager, general contractor, needs to have information about the preferred timing and sequence of construction events in order to put together a guaranteed maximum price, which Commissioner Mapps will get us to the ability to answer your question about ultimate costs for this fiscal year and next. So some of these decisions need to be made very, very soon, and our purpose here today is to provide all of you as much information as we have available to us today, answer your questions, and have feedback given to the mayor so that he can make decisions on the best path forward. And with that, Haley, could you
Barry,
bring up?
before you move
Yes.
forward with that, could I just ask a clarifying question? So council has already approved a facilities renovation budget, but legally what is required is a guaranteed maximum price, correct?
Correct, in the contract.
And so how is the guaranteed maximum price different than the total amount that has been previously allocated by council for this purpose?
So I will answer very briefly, and then I'll probably ask Caitlin to give you the more detailed answer. But just from a numbers perspective, council appropriated about $7.2 million for the facilities portion of the transition costs for this fiscal year. That's
And that
one-time
includes,
funds.
does that include then design? Does that also include construction?
Correct.
Thank you. Okay, and then back to you, sorry.
Caitlin McGeehee. So
Thanks,
the 7.2 million is inclusive of all costs, direct and indirect costs. So we have costs for construction, and then we have our soft costs, which are professional design fees, contingencies, permitting, so on and so forth. The GMP is the cost of construction established by the contractor for the direct cost of construction, so the physical build out of the space. And so that will be less than the total of
Got it.
7.2.
Okay, got it. Thank you. That's actually very helpful. I appreciate that. And council has already approved the funding, but we cannot move forward without the maximum guaranteed price. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, because then we'll realize what we anticipated.
Got it. Okay, great. And then that'll allow Tim to be able to put his budget together to answer Commissioner Mapp's question, at least as it pertains to facilities.
Yes, because we came
Okay.
out for approval for the ordinance for a CMGC, which is an alternative contracting method. And so we anticipated the cost of construction for both chambers and offices. And so the GMP will be validated by those budgeting exercises we did, or if it's excessive of, then we'll have to come back and say, hey, it's costing more than we thought.
Okay, that's helpful. Thanks, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just so I can be sure I'm tracking, could you just underscore for me the lesson you want me to take from that exchange?
So the interesting part to me was we've already approved 7.2 million, correct? And that included architecture, design, construction, the whole package.
Yes.
What we're now waiting for is, based on the CMGC contract we have approved, what is the cost of the actual construction, right? Which is a subset of the total of the 7.2, or at least we hope it is.
Yes.
Right. Is that correct? Did I restate
Correct.
your work correctly? Okay, good.
I have a question. So the scope of work right now that we're talking about to welcome the new form of government, is it all internal, meaning City Hall downtown?
Yes.
So that's where I get confused. I think what I got from the vote was that they want district representation clearly. And so where is the conversation and where is the budget? And I think that should come first, actually, to build the physical spaces in each 4 districts. That's what puzzles me, that we're not having that conversation. And maybe you're all having it, I just haven't heard it.
Yeah, and is this working? So maybe we could get started, because I think what we need to do today is to work through every question that you guys have line by line. And that is certainly one of the questions that you have. It's one of the questions that the GTAC, the Government Transition Advisory Committee, has. And it's a fair question, and there are fair reasons that we prioritize the work in the way that we did. So again, my name is Maddie Sauter. I run the Division of Asset Management, city's fleet organization, and about a third of the city's facilities. So what I want to do today is work through all of the questions that you have. So my goal today, ideally, is to keep this project on track. The project is necessary. The downtown space renovations, first, second, or third, whichever order they come in, they're necessary.
Okay, so it's on the table, but I didn't hear that until now.
It's on the table, but it's delayed for a reason. And so if I can kind of keep going, I can explain
So
that
my
to you.
opinion is that we would focus on that first. We have Portland Solutions. We've been out in the community talking about how civic life is repurposing itself. We have the district coalitions that are ready for this. It's going to be a little challenging to go from 7 to 4. We'll work on that. But the fact is, that's what I think should be the priority. We just happen to have 4 commissioners right now, right? And there's 4 suites. They're quite lovely. They could probably fit. There probably doesn't need to be tons of expense on that to get started and be functional. So I think we should talk about sequencing. And I hope that we personally, and I'm, I guess, lobbying my colleagues right now, that we would start with construction on the district locations, and then second would be in whatever the chambers, and then third would be how to figure out these suites, which each one could be one of the 4 districts.
Yeah, I
But right
appreciate.
now, I don't see tons of expense on that personally.
Well, I appreciate that. The
But
typical design.
The goal of the 12 council is to be out in the community, connecting with their districts. So why not focus on that first?
So the reason we didn't focus on that first is because there were not district boundaries and we didn't know where the districts were going to
There are
be.
now.
So, right, but it's about a 107-week process from start to finish to do sort of design in the municipal environment. There's lots of restrictions on procurement. There's difficulties with funding. So it takes a long time to do these projects. And backing out from the deadline by which we had of January 1st of 2025, we did not have time to know where these sites should be located. So that was one pragmatic problem. The other aspect is that we figured that these new counselors would probably want to have a say in the types of physical relationships that they had with their communities. So we were trying to identify, well, where could we guesstimate that there would be space in the right spot? We landed, frankly, on community centers as being places that were safe havens, that were well known to the community. We could kind of pick a couple that seemed like they would logically be in different districts, and got into the first phases of negotiations with parks, only to find out that those spaces are full already. And so it would be an offsetting of parks programming to have this type of activity come into the community center. We went to the private market to ask about leasing. At the time, there was still quite a lot of vandalism going on. I think that's still the case to a degree, but when we were asking those questions, we couldn't find landlords who wanted to rent to us. So then we're in a situation where we're trying to identify city buildings that are available beyond the parks programs, and OMF doesn't have any, and most of the remaining ones are either fire stations or public works facilities. So simply from a space location standpoint, where are these sites going to be? There were a a lot of questions immediately on the table about where those spaces were going to land and whose space we would take. So given how fast the clock was ticking, knowing that at a certain point we were going to be past the point at which we could at least have a council chambers up and running, we made the decision to defer the district offices. And we really do want to have the new counselors be part of that conversation. Do you want to be in a community center? Do you want to have a storefront? How do you want to relate with your community?
Right.
And those are
each
design.
other.
What's that?
I mean, and each other. We're making an assumption in
Absolutely,
this conversation
yeah.
Wait a
that the
minute.
3 representatives from each district will want to be in the same office. They may not.
Right, and this has been the
Maybe-
challenge throughout, right, is we didn't have a scope in order to start the process of design.
Well,
We
actually,
didn't know how
we
many
have district
people.
coalitions now, but I haven't heard you mention them. Did you talk to them?
We started this process in earnest last fall, so we've been waiting, we
They've been
are
existing
out in
for
front.
decades.
What's that?
They've been around for a while. Did you talk to the district coalitions?
We did not.
Okay, that's fair. Let's start that conversation.
Okay, we're happy to do that as of
Yeah.
today, but, last November, there was not a lot of programming infrastructure in place for us to then create design requirements that would then create the foundation of a property procurement plan or a capital project or, a scope. So it's very difficult to design facility projects when there aren't individuals who will be affected by those projects at the table yet, and when you don't know where these places are supposed to be.
Now, I get this from a construction standpoint, not as much as you, but this is relational. And so we have district coalitions, we have neighborhood associations, we have 4 districts now, and so we can press a restart on this. And I'd like us to consider engaging them.
So I think
And then
what-
hopefully we could look at the sequence differently.
And I think what we would be very happy to do is to start that process now. But what I don't want to do, and I guess this is my goal for today, is to try to not derail the work that we already have going. I have a lot of concerns that if we don't do at the very least the council chambers project, that we are going to get to January 1st of 2025. There are not going to be enough seats for people. There is still going to be exceedingly outdated technology. There is still going to be security concerns with this building, accessibility concerns, and that we have a win on the way. So let's go ahead and knock that out.
I'm
and-
glad you're receptive to the feedback, and I'm glad
Yeah.
that you're reconsidering how to press a restart on this.
Yeah.
And I think that we need to continue to have a conversation about the values of how we want to prioritize this. I actually think that we could have city council meetings over in the Portland building in one of the big rooms. I mean, there's ways to do this, but I do think first and foremost, we should have our facility built for the relational aspect of the new city government that the voters approved, and that would be focusing on the district coalitions first.
So we're certainly receptive, but I want to be clear. My goal is to continue with the things that we have in flight right now. There are an enormous number of reasons for that, not the least of which are cost and readiness. Adding to that scope might be, very advisable at this point in time. In fact, the GTAC was asking us, where is that process to talk about district offices? What is that going to look like? But that's above and beyond the scope that we already have moving. So if I could have a moment to continue communicating about that scope, I think it would be helpful.
I have one follow-up question on Commissioner Ryan's questions, and then I'd love to get it started her on this.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you made a decision that we were not going to prioritize district offices, that there were higher priorities in construction and phasing from a facilities perspective. And first, I want to confirm that you made that decision. What was the public process you engaged prior to making that decision?
There was a limited public process because everything was shaping up. The concern on our end was the viability of anything. We did not feel, there was no judgment call about whether district offices were good or bad. There was simply not the information available for us to begin that process in earnest, not knowing district boundaries.
So can I jump in here?
Sure.
And I appreciate what Commissioner Ryan said. And ultimately, I agree with him that the most impactful part of the new form of government is the direct representation in the district. However, I will put my cards on the table. I support Number one, renovating this chamber. The council has to have a facility to meet in. City Hall seems like the logical place for the council to meet. This council chamber has not been renovated in a long, long time, and even if they love each other, there just isn't room for 12 people to sit at that dais. So we have to renovate the room. And I, by the way, appreciate the fact you want to upgrade the technology. I'm 100% supportive of that notion as well. The council already had a public hearing on this discussion. We voted to approve the CMGC contract for both the chamber as well as council offices, and we even voted a budget to do it. So, I'm not saying we don't do what Dan says in addition, but I want to be mindful of the cost involved. The reason I have not considered putting the district offices, at least in this part of the conversation, is number one, I don't know what the new district commissioners are going to want. It's up to them to really define how that piece of the government, what their relationship is going to be with their districts. I don't know, but I feel like they should help determine that. But what we owe them, in my opinion, is when they walk in City Hall on January 1st, well, maybe not January 1st, let's give them one day, January 2nd, 2025, where are they going to put their stuff?
Right.
Because they're going to spend a
In
lot
their
of time.
district offices.
Well, they're going to spend a lot of time in this room. There's 12 city commissioners. We spend a lot of time in this room, and there's only 5 of us. So when there's 12, and they're doing work sessions, and they're establishing policy, and they're discussing the priorities of the city, they're going to be doing a lot of meetings in this building. It just seems to me logically that they would want to have a place in this building, a place to work other than Starbucks across the street, which is fine. Starbucks might not want them all there.
Irrelevant.
But it just seems to me it's not asking a lot. Every city hall I've ever been in has a chamber, and it has a place for the city commissioners to be able to do work. And if they also want a district office, I say, we don't have to have that all nailed down today. We could, if the council wishes it so and is willing to budget additional dollars in a new CMGC contract for that. I don't see that as being a critical path.
I think we allocated 7 million. I'm just saying, can we take a pause and look at prioritizing the district offices? We have 4 offices now that are very large, way too big for any of these people. So I think all of them could fit in one of these 4 offices. So they have a place to go. And then I just think we're having a dialogue about prioritizing right now. And so I'm bringing this to this conversation today because quite frankly, we're finally focusing on it. So we've allocated the money, let's figure out how to spend it right. That's all I'm saying.
And just to build off that, I want to be clear about what I understood from the April ordinance. So we approve a contractor, they're supposed to come back with some, a project plan and option. I certainly didn't interpret that this council has spoken on the decision not to have district offices out of the gate. So I want to be clear. I certainly, go ahead.
Commissioner, if I may, the project did present the discussion around district offices in a March work session and in an a March and in June. We have brought this to council before, saying that the district offices would be in a second phase of work. We've been engaged with your offices for months now in the development of programming needs for the future council, and we have been moving through the design process. So we have addressed this question. Commissioner Ryan, I understand that you're now saying, I think it takes a bigger priority, and we had a miss in not talking to the neighborhood coalitions, so we will reach out to them. We still don't have a lot of programming details about what a future 12-member commission will need in a district office, but we're happy to have that conversation. My plea to you today, though, is we've heard a lot of what ifs. Have you thought about what about this over the last few weeks? I think Maddie is prepared to walk through the decisions and the information that we have before us today. If we could get through them, and maybe they will answer some of your questions and spur others.
But I want to be crystal clear.
Yes.
A work session is not this council approving of that pretty fundamental concept, right? And I'm hearing actually something slightly different than what I interpreted yesterday, so I want to be crystal clear. I had interpreted yesterday that there was a design decision to put the offices for council in a central location, that was the design decision, not that there would be a district office coming later. And to me, whether we're delaying district offices or we're saying offices are going to be central, that is a fundamental deviation from what voters were told during charter commission approval. I mean, or charter approval, from my vantage point. I mean, there was great emphasis put on district offices and being connected into the community. So that's where I'm wrestling. I don't feel like this council has approved that decision, and it doesn't sound like there was public engagement in going that direction in any real meaningful way.
Fair point around the public engagement. I think that the practical nature of the challenges that Maddie outlined were the primary reason why the project moved the district office to a second phase when the new council would be seated and able to weigh in, and we had districts, and you know, maybe the private market would have changed enough that we would find private landlords willing to lease to us. That is not the space that we are in today.
Okay, one last point, then I'm going to let you get going. I've heard about letting the next council weigh in, but yet we're making the decisions on what you're proposing is that we make decisions, largely you make the decisions on chambers and central space without their involvement, but delay the district offices for their involvement. I'm not following that logic. I think there's arguments for the opposite, but just putting that on the.
I appreciate that, Commissioner. Your point is taken. I think we were approaching it, as the mayor mentioned, that on January 2 of 2025, the council will need a place to meet, and we were trying to figure out the most effective and cost-efficient way to get there. And so that was the approach we took.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would say the needs downtown are so foundational, right? They're not aesthetic. They are just very pragmatic. So when we were looking at the time available to us to work, the downtown spaces seemed like the ones that we could frankly kind of plow through and get done and have ready by January 2nd of 2025, so that there would be a space to be. The district affiliations to us seem more creative, more dynamic, more interesting. And we want to make sure that those conversations are had in conjunction, and this was a decision that we made in conjunction with the people who would be using those spaces. And the construction timeline that we had to get work done by January 2nd of 2025 did not seem to have the time available for those creative conversations, the right people available potentially to be part of those conversations, and just the basic programmatic outline available for us to know what to do. For example, district boundaries. Those have been solidified very recently. So again, that's a phase 2. We always envisioned it as a phase 2. We wanted to make sure that council at least had functioning, safe, welcoming places on January 2nd of 2025. We did not feel it would be possible to achieve that goal for the districts while we waited for decisions on boundaries and tried to figure out who we even had to accommodate. So it was not pushed off into the ether forever. It was pushed off into the ether until we had the programming requirements that were required for us to be able to inform that discussion and have a creative discussion about what's needed. So that, I'm hearing that conversation can launch now, and that's great. And that's probably something that we can accommodate.
It's okay.
But I would like to not derail the basic achievement within we have a win available to us, and I would like to be able to at least get across the finish line and have functioning, safe, welcoming spaces available for the expanded council on January 2nd to do the most basic aspects of their job.
And I think we'd all like that. I think we'd like that to include the districts. We have district offices that have space. So now that we're having this transparent, open dialogue, we have the district boundaries outlined. Can you just agree that we can press a restart and look at how we can incorporate that into our sequencing? Why would there be pushback? And there has been pushback on this. It's not the first time I've talked about this, as you know, in private meetings. So I'm glad we're having this transparent dialogue in the public, and I hope that we can leverage what currently exists in Capitol. I think And I'll just keep saying it. We have 4 wonderful big suites right now, and I don't think it needs to be that expensive on day one for them to feel comfortable in those offices and coming into a remodeled chamber. So I would just say the sequencing would be the remodeling of the suites could be third. That's all.
Got it. And I appreciate that. So would you like me to proceed with the presentation we
would.
prepared? Okay. Let's go ahead and move forward. All right, charter reform. It intersects with facilities. We see the full scope as being chambers, downtown workspaces, that's council and the administrator, and district offices. That's the full scope. Our phase 1 goals, we identified, if we could go back. Our phase 1 goals, we identified this as a critical path, understanding really what's required to be effective in developing a design, developing a cost estimate, and construction. And so we determined that we wanted to be ready for the new council by January 1st. We wanted to be compliant with the ballot measure language, at least in letter, if not in full spirit, and I think that's something I'm hearing as a critique. We wanted to make sure that the new counselors had a place to work that was safe, functional, and welcoming, and we wanted to achieve that goal in as cost-effective a way as possible. So this is phase 1. Phase 1 scope, and this is what we brought forward back in March and then confirmed again in June, but I'm hearing there was some confusion about that. It's very straightforward. So council chambers is too small to fit 12 people. Accessibility here is dated back to the 90s. There are improvements that need to be made for ADA so that people who have disabilities can fully participate. There is a security program that needs to be enhanced. So we experienced a lot of learnings in sort of that 2020 to 2022 period of time about the building's difficulties and weaknesses and deficiencies. And so we want to upgrade it so that it can accommodate a modern urban council. And then the technology is extremely outdated. It's at least 15 years old. In some cases, it's older, like the broadcasting technology. It was never designed to support a modern hybrid type of application. We were actually looking at replacing it back in 2019. When COVID hit, we realized, wow, there might be this thing called hybrid work that's permanent. We should probably delay. And then when charter reform came along, we realized that the technological requirements were probably also going to change. And so we again delayed and realized we probably should just wrap it into the scope with council chamber renovations. Along with that, it seemed like a win to also pick up the downtown workspaces. So there is a very small program intended for these sites. It's reworking to match the idea of having 4 districts. Eventually in 2025, the mayor's office will be renovated to change up how that works and accommodate a city administrator. And we were trying to think about, in the absence of other spaces available, how do we give the council the ability to develop rapport between members of the district and between the districts themselves? That rapport building is important and we want to support it. Your workspaces, you may or may not know this, but they have very different security profiles. When Commissioner Hardesty was here, her office was shot into 9 times. So those are the types of things that we think about in terms of how can we keep you safe. And that's something that's been very important to us, that when somebody runs for council, they show up and they believe that the building has their back. They believe that they're in a safe place. We don't want that to just be a thought. We want it to be reality, and we have to make upgrades in order for that to happen. And then your technology in your offices is also outdated. So I know I was on the phone yesterday with one of you and you're having connection issues. There's a reason for that. It's because it's Cat 5 cabling, not Cat 6 cabling. Cat 6 cabling has been around for, I don't know, at least 10, if not more years. We want to upgrade it so you can have connectivity. This is the basic scope. We've been asked a lot why it is that the estimate put forward for voters was not 100% accurate. If you've ever built a kitchen, I would imagine go to a general contractor and say, I want a firm price for a house that I can take to the bank. You have 3 weeks to produce it. I can't tell you where I'm going to live. I can't tell you how many people are going to be in the house. I can't tell you what I want it to look like, but I want a firm price. That's effectively what happened. That's a very difficult exercise to do. We did use cost per square foot data to try to ballpark where we thought changes might land, but again, we had very little clarity on the scope. Was City Hall still going to be here, or was it going to be somewhere else? Were we going to do district offices, or reuse the assets that we have? So absent any real design scope or programming scope, we did our best to estimate an initial budget. As the election happened and time ticked on and a project team formed, we realized that folks were still kind of puttering around and not making clear decisions, and that we were going to run out of time. And so we, as noted, pulled together what we felt was the critical path, which is the basic package of assets that would be available for council on January 1st of 2025. And that estimate of $7.2 million is what we are still working with. It is the phase 1 estimate. This is the basic process for construction. As we go through the design construction process flow, our confidence in these cost estimates will get increasingly certain. We're about right at the beginning of the construction document phase of work. We have to give our contractor notice to proceed with construction documents in order to develop that guaranteed maximum price. It very much so, we hope, will be under the 7.2 million, because that 7.2 million is the fully loaded cost with all the soft costs on top. But at that point in time, we'll have more awareness about what this phase 1 package will cost. Our goal is to have everything constructed by the end of September, and that's because it takes a while to commission assets, to develop operating programs, operating procedures for evacuations, things of that nature. So we need to do all of that work, and we need about a quarter to do it. Somebody asked me about cost per square foot. So here is that information. We were fine-tuning this last night, so I know I gave somebody some data yesterday. It's a little bit different. But effectively, our fully loaded cost for all of these projects together is about $300 a square foot. That's including all of our soft costs. Just as a note, the Portland building, when it was constructed, it came in at $500 a square foot. Vanport, when it was constructed, came in at $635 a square foot. So this is a very prudent price. You can see most of the costs are layered into council chambers. That's because of the technology costs associated with the work. But overall, these are not large costs given what infrastructure costs in general and what construction is costing today. So I know I've heard a lot of concerns about costs, but we are on track and we are in alignment with industry. We gave you some options after realizing that option 1, which is our preferred option, is not feeling comfortable to you. Just so you know, under option 1, you'll see a cost for $893,000. That's within that 7.2 million. As we start to go away from that option, delaying construction, we start layering in risks and costs in future years that we otherwise would not incur if we continued moving forward with option 1. So the delta between the 1.4 million and the 893,000, those costs, as that number gets bigger and that delta gets bigger, those are costs above and beyond that 7.2 million. We're right at the top of that project budget. So those were not estimated. We were not estimating having this kind of disruption and delay. And so there are risks to the project, there are real costs, they're direct costs, and for us, they're problematic, which is why we would encourage us to continue with the work that we have and complete option 1. I do want to note that there are some indirect costs that the city overall is going to incur in addition to these costs if we don't proceed with option 1. So beyond these 4 walls, we are also in charge of space optimization in what's called the blended rate, which is all of the downtown buildings together. Right now, we have several bureaus that are in outleased spaces. One set of bureaus is a water BES dynamic. Water has a very large vacant space in the Portland building. They are currently not getting cost recovery for that because it is vacant to the tune of about $470,000 a year. And BES is in a very expensive lease in Pioneer Tower. BES would like to move out of that space and move into Water Bureau's space so that water gets cost recovery and BES can cut its costs. Similarly, there's a whole interplay happening with PBOT, facilities, OEHR, the CBO, and BRFS. So Tim doesn't know this yet, but in the spirit of transparency, and hey, this happens to everybody, Tim is moving. Tim, you're moving.
News to me.
Yeah, this is how it goes, right? So we need Tim's group to consolidate. BRFS is interested in consolidating. Facilities and OEHR will move to the 10th floor, and it will clear out the 12th floor for PBOT to come in from 6th and Main, which is an outlease that we have that we do not need. In doing that, PBOT will save about $300,000 a year because their square footage will shrink, and facilities will cut its outlease cost by about $600,000 a year. So those are costs that are unnecessary that we were able to shed if we can optimize the space we have in the Portland building. So these aren't your costs or the cost of the project per se, but they are very large costs that we can get rid of if we are able to pack you in to the 1900 building under option 1 and have you use that as your office space in 2024. If we have to start keeping that space open, holding that space in Portland building open, it really eliminates a lot of our utilization goals and opportunities. And so those costs essentially will accrue to the city and to some bureaus in particular, as opposed to being costs that we can shed. So one of those two situations is going to fall through if we need to hold open space at the Portland building for council offices. And that, the total of those leases is about $1.5 million. Figuring one of the two will fall apart, that's about $750,000 in cost that the city's going to eat because we're not proceeding with option 1. I do want to note, some people have asked me about leased spaces. Why don't we just move into a leased space? That is not a possibility for council chambers. We actually did a fairly robust survey with other municipalities that own chambers to see if it would be possible to house you there while we reconstruct this space. There aren't that many options. The county might be an option for 5 individuals, but we would have to make a bunch of broadcasting, AV, and security upgrades effectively to somebody else's asset. And that's not what we want to do. We want to invest in our own assets when possible. Thus, the plan to move you to the 1900 building into the hearings room, where the upgrades that we make can be of benefit to the organization that typically uses that asset and will benefit from the security and AV upgrades in perpetuity for the types of planning commission meetings that they host. So moving you out of this space allows us to effectively invest in our own assets. With regard to office spaces, we found space for you at 1900 because we assumed you wanted to be adjacent to council chambers, temporary chambers.
Commissioner Rubio has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, thanks. I just want to understand what you're saying. So the difference between, or the cost increase between option 1 and option 3, you're saying are the cost outlays, meaning the other building, the other offices moving to our own offices? That's the difference?
The cost differences on the slide that's up between the 1.4 million and the 900, that was just rounded to 900,000, $500,000, or the 2.1 million and the 900,000 are direct costs to this project. So it's predominantly inflation, so material and labor costs going up because we're delaying work and inflation is real. There are some other costs. Do you want to speak to what they are? Oh,
We've got a slide that maybe advance a couple. One more. There you go.
Caitlin can speak to those deltas, but just to wrap up that thought, they do not include indirect costs. So those are leases that we can shed in order to help save the city money overall. But we can go into these cost options right off the bat. Caitlin, take it away.
Sure. So the differences in option 1 and 3, we can associate added costs with moving, facility improvements, technology, security, and then professional services fees and inflation and phasing premium. And then as well as contingencies based off of unknown program as we delay. So, and I can hit each one of these in more detail or answer any questions you might have right off the bat. But when we, But when we delay a year, we are also having to accommodate an expanded council. So instead of having to house 4 commissioners, we're housing 12 council members and their program needs. So we initially anticipate 8 private offices for the year 2024 in option 1, whereas in option 3, we will have to accommodate 24 private offices. And so trying to allocate space in a downtown city-owned property adjacent to City Hall is a challenge. And that would require what we anticipate phasing of the work to be able to accommodate that program. So that's why you're seeing the jump from 10,000 to 6,000 as associated with moving.
Does that, Commissioner Rubio, do you have further questions? We want to make sure we understand the question
Yeah,
and
that was
answered it.
helpful. I just want to also note that before we voted on the architecture contract, the whole contract, from my understanding, the staff level conversation centered on a move out date around November 1st. At least that was my understanding with my colleagues. So I'm just curious about why that analysis wasn't done, or was it done and it was rolled out? I'm just curious.
Yeah, and this is an absolutely fair question, and I think it's confusing. And so where I was going to start this conversation is saying that this has been a super fast-paced logic puzzle for us. When we started this project, we assumed that council chambers was going to have to go into the Portland building. And we did that because we did test fits internally and couldn't figure out how to make this space work. As it turns out, this space can work. So we hired an architect. The architect, had sort of more intuitive knowledge of structures than we did, and they found a way to make council chambers work. All of the sudden, some of our contingency is now used up, moving council chambers to a temporary location and probably moving offices with it. There are very good reasons for us to avoid being at the Portland building for the council chambers. For one, it leaves this building as a stranded asset, and this room in particular. What do we do with it? For two, we had a problem with the security program, and that was true both pragmatically and from a cost standpoint. So we really do not want you guys having your offices in one building and having to walk across the street to council chambers. For one, it rains here, but for two, there are security issues having you guys in different spaces. We know that you have to evacuate chambers not that infrequently to go to safe spaces, and we didn't want you having to walk across the street when that happens to get back to your offices. The added cost of the security program as well to effectively duplicate it in the 2 locations was about $500,000 a year, $380,000 a year. It was very high. So there was an ongoing cost created that we felt was burdensome and imprudent if we could actually get everything in one building. And then lastly, as people have come back and occupied the building in the course of doing their work as a bureau, the Leah Hing room is used and booked all the time. So for example, there was a procurement fair there, I think a week or 2 ago, and it was minority contractors coming in, learning the procurement process and registering to do business with the city. It's where we do trainings for new staff orientations. It's where bureaus come together and have a lunch, their annual parties. So the bureaus also need to operate. That's the biggest space we have downtown. And we didn't want to give that space away and then end up with this room empty with no purpose, when in fact, we have it available if we can just figure out how to use it. So when we realized that this was an option, it was fantastic from a long-term standpoint, but it also now has created a burden for you, which is you're having to, frankly, be disrupted. And I know that that's hard.
Yeah, not to be too fun. I want to make sure, Carmen, is Commissioner Rubio done with her? Did you have follow-up questions on that?
Yeah, I'm almost done. I just want to, I didn't really hear an answer to the what happened to the November 1 date that was in play and in discussion.
Yeah, sorry.
I feel like you just never heard back on that again.
Yep, so to close that loop fully, if we had constructed council chambers at the Portland building, you would have worked here until Halloween of 2024, and you would have shown up on November 1st over at that site. Now we're in a different situation, which is if we're able to reuse this asset, that's great, but it means we need time to reconstruct it, and you can't be working here while we do that. And so that is what happened to that deadline, and it's why it moved way up, and it's why we got into the space about options of temporary spaces, which is that, you know, you can't be working here while it's under construction. And so now everything is moving up, and there's some costs that fit in the budget in option 1 to have you move and to rent temporary spaces for us, and to create space for the construction and transition to happen. Does that answer your question, Commissioner Rubio?
That does answer my question. I just want to make a note, though, that for me, a lot of, it seems to me that the support for that contract moving forward was based on an understanding of the November 1. So it is, you know, it leaves us kind of like, okay, we didn't get that information back from you. We didn't hear that had changed in a significant way. And that's just something I would have appreciated knowing that had changed, or that we had any input into that change. But thank you. I appreciate the answer.
Yeah, and you know, we have tried to do as many pit stops with your offices as possible to try to help keep you informed, but I think it's fair to say that this project is on an exceptionally fast timeline. It is on schedule, but it has been difficult to do the type of outreach that probably would have kept you apprised of every change in the logic puzzle as we worked our way through it.
Go ahead.
If I may jump in here, and I want to share something with my colleagues on council that will explain the frame that I look at this puzzle. First, I should say I find myself in a situation where I don't have a lot of good options. You know, I have 3 bureaus to run: Water, BES, and PBOT, and I got 1 office, my City Hall office. Now, I think I'm unique on council in this, in that I got people who are in the Portland building or will be in the Portland building. And frankly, I'm told that in order for my bureaus to maximize, most efficiently use the space and resources that they have, it's frankly important that we follow essentially path 1. And we kind of heard a little bit about trading more expensive office space for less expensive office space and whatnot. It's very complicated, and even I don't have all of the information I can't keep it all straight at the same time, but that's the take-home message that I'm getting from my staff for the most part, although I think there could be some subtleties there. However, which basically, in option 1 basically means we move out of this building. And frankly, and I think this is the underlying source of the tension in the room today, is if we move out of this building today, it's a lot like going back to the pandemic era when we're all online, and it wasn't a great way to do business. And frankly, you know, if we're going to bring in our city managers in July, it's kind of the end of council as we know it. You know, the transition and sunsetting of the way we've done business forever is upon us, and frankly, it's upon us this week. And that, you know, and I think that's painful for council because all of us take our responsibility to represent and be here for the people of Portland who elected us, and there are like more than 600,000 of them. And this building is symbolically important and substantively important. However, at least in my case, and I think this is different from your portfolios, but this is my case, you know, I gotta make a choice between, do I manage and frankly sunset my City Hall office, or do I make sure I am optimizing my bureaus as effectively as possible? As I go through this, although I will be looking for options, I'm gonna be trying to maximize and optimize the managing, you know, to make sure that my water people, my BES people, my PBOT people have the right space. It's gonna be terrible for my office, you know. We all know under the best of circumstances, I remember Commissioner Gonzalez, he had an office set up for him. It took months for him to get his furniture and computers and all of this. And that's when things are kind of easy. And I suspect that by the time we get moved into the new office space over there, essentially we'll be pretty close to July. And that's when things change yet again. So it's a big deal. However, and I recognize, I think other people are in different spaces given the stuff that they manage. So you're going to be in a little bit of a different space, but that's just the space I'm in. So I just want to put that on the public record. I know, I think that even in my space, there might be some other options, but I just want to share that with everybody. Now, can we go back to we kind of lost.
Before you do that, can I ask
Yeah.
a question directly related
Yeah.
to the comments you just made? Because that's not quite my understanding. My understanding is that we would have alternative offices set up and ready to go. And the way it would work is on Friday, we would move out, and again, my office isn't currently scoped to move, but if my colleagues want me to move, I'm happy to do it. I don't care. But the way it's currently scoped is commissioners would move out of their offices on a Friday, and they'd be in a new office, which would be up and operational on Monday. Isn't that accurate?
Yes, that's correct.
So I don't think there's a disruption of the council office. Now, the chamber, you're going to set up an alternative location, or what was your thinking there?
Yeah, so the chambers will be up at the 1900 building hearings room. Do you want to walk through the specifics of the timing on
Well,
that?
I don't want to,
Yeah.
because I know other people have questions, and I just need to make sure I understand that there will not be a substantial disruption to council work or council offices, that they will leave on a Friday
No.
and they will start
It-
somewhere close by on a Monday.
It's pretty straightforward, yeah, I
And we will
mean,
have an operational council chamber that week, the
yes,
week we move out.
yes,
Is
that is
that
correct.
not your understanding?
It's not, I would say it's not the lived experience of anyone who actually serves on council right now, you know? And I don't want to speak for Commissioner Gonzalez, but I think he's the most recent guy I saw move into the building. Even when you have a building set up, for whatever reasons, there's weeks, if not months, of transition, trying to get everything set up. That was my experience, you know, and I had the transition period. I'm not quite sure what was responsible for, and I can't really comment.
We all have those war stories. I could go on that point.
Yeah. And it's great, and I trust these people. These are true pros. So that's just a concern I have. But actually, I want to put that on the record, and we can. History will show how it actually plays out. I forget where we are in the slide, but I think, can we go back to the slide that says 3 options, I think is roughly where we got. Okay, now, can I move forward? Okay, so I'm looking at this slide, and it says the project has reached the construction document phase and cannot move forward on schedule without a decision on construction timing this week. And I guess my question is, who makes that? I don't remember this being on council this week. So what is that decision? Is that a mayor decision? Is that, yeah, what's going on?
It's the mayor's decision. And I want to note, I did read something in the Oregonian yesterday, you know, that sort of implied that this was a power play of some point. In fact, the mayor is articulating our needs. He is our commissioner in charge. We are not the tip of his spear, he is the tip of ours. And as sort of the pragmatic administrators of this work, we need someone to make a call that says, go to the next stage. And that call needs to be made very soon by the mayor
So
that we can move forward.
Thank you, and I'm prepared to make said call, but could we get through, we have 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Can we get through the final slides? And I want to give everybody an opportunity to wrap up, have
Yeah.
a comment at the end. So if we could, colleagues, can you give me that forbearance?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'll give everybody else a final say as well.
All right, so temporary spaces, we have found a temporary option for you for council chambers. It's up at the 1900 building, it's in the hearings room. This is an asset that we already own. We don't have to pay rent to come here. Any physical investments we have to put into the space, we are the ultimate beneficiaries of. It does have space for 5 commissioners. It's in a city-owned property, so again, our investments are internal. We're not throwing money away. We have 24-hour security available. There's overflow space available in the building. Since we're the landlord, it's pretty easy to interface with ourselves. And the costs of doing this fit within the original budget, even though we didn't realize we'd have this cost. That's what contingency is for. Knowing that we have the ability to renovate council chambers, and it's actually cheaper, both one-time and long-term, ongoing, to do this versus to go to the Portland building. So long as we can handle the pragmatic disruption of work, it fits, the cost of doing this and outfitting the space fits in the budget. Along with that, we have anticipated that you will need workspaces, and in fact, it's much cheaper for us to do both the chambers and the second floor at the same time in 2024. Mobilization is expensive, so we save costs there. We have found spaces for you at the 1900 building. The reason we picked this site is because you would be adjacent to the chambers. There are private offices available for commissioners and their chiefs of staff. We would be allowed to do what we want to do in the Portland building, which is to optimize how we're using that space and get out of these out leases downtown. And it could be ready. It would allow us to have the office spaces ready for the expanded council on the second floor by January 1st of 2025. And again, the costs here fit within the original budget. We have looked at the other two options. Well, actually, we didn't have a third option when we first pulled this slide together, but the other option was that we delay the workspaces to 25, 26, but that starts to create mounting problems. As Commissioner Mapps noted, it puts us in a situation where either PBOT and facilities or water and BES lose out on a fair amount of savings. It delays council from being able to be in their spaces by January 1st of 2025. The costs start to creep us up in excess of that 7.2 million. People have also asked us about leased spaces, that there's a lot of real estate available cheap downtown right now. Why don't we lease a space? It's because it is foundationally cheaper to do all of these type of upgrades in assets that we already own versus assets that we also have to then pay a lease for. So we picked 1900 building. Timeline is here. The council chambers, there would be about a few weeks of setup prior to you guys moving over to the temporary chambers. And we'd like to have the new chambers operational by November 1st. That's our commissioning period, and people would come back to the fully operational chambers January 1st of 2025. Council offices, it says virtual work, but really what that is maybe a day or two. It's a phased and very clear transition of everybody out of where they are to new spaces. Again, the idea is you put your stuff in a box on a Friday and you come back to a fully functioning workspace on a Monday. During that time, we're reconstructing the second floor, and then when January 1st rolls around, people come back to offices that are outfitted and ready to go. This just gets to this notion of facilities as a space manager. This is really related to what's happening with the bureaus over in the Portland building and our desire to shed out leases. And I think that's it.
Just had some follow-up questions on space management. So a couple of quick foundational questions. Did you engage downtown broker at all to evaluate space options that are available in downtown in the marketplace right now for any of these needs? Have you engaged a broker at all on that question?
Yeah, we frequently engage brokers to see what's available. There is a resolution on the books from 2013, though, that we use available city space prior to pursuing out leases for, I would say, fairly logical financial reasons. We already own these assets or have debt on these assets in the case of the Portland building. So leasing any space just adds to our cost basis and inherently is more expensive. Also, there are...
Can I stop you right there? I
Yeah.
mean, we're in pretty remarkable times right now, right? I mean, we have 10 million square feet of vacant space downtown. You have landlords doing everything in their power to activate space, to literally have bodies in the building. So I fully follow the logic of the 2013 ordinance as you just described it. There's logic inherent in that, but we are in remarkable times. I had one owner describe it as the best opportunity in a lifetime for tenants is right now downtown office, much less first floor retail that has some interesting opportunities for government functions. So just help me understand to what extent you engaged a broker to assess available, given that opportunity, the space downtown.
Well, space downtown is going to have a cost per square foot. Using existing assets that we already own for rent is $0 a square foot. So by the
Well,
time we're in the
often-
leased market, even in a great market, we're more than zero. And so it adds to our cost basis to lease space versus using assets that we already own more efficiently.
It sounds like you didn't really engage.
Well, we engage all the time. In fact, we're in negotiations right now with the landlord at 6th and Main. In fact, I think BES actually has an ordinance coming to you tomorrow about the 6th and Main property to see if they can rent that property because they don't have certainty on what's going on with optimization of our existing space. But it's, you know, if you imagine you're remodeling your kitchen and you don't like the cost estimate you got back for that, it would not be cheaper to go and rent an apartment and remodel their kitchen, right? Like, if you already own a house and you're.
Can I be clear what I'm asking here? So so there are opportunities at times to get downtown space right now for $0 per square foot rent. I mean, or extremely low rent for activation. Now, whether the council offices, for example, on a temporary basis, you go forward to 2025, you go out and activate a space for a year while you remodel this building, for example, all right? Was that option evaluated with a competent broker to evaluate the opportunities for temporary space in 2025? Again, looking at option 3, if we delayed construction in this building, avoid disruption of the existing government, and went and found temporary space in 2025, was there any evaluation with competent brokers, and is there a report on that or any kind of summary of that option?
We are in active, ongoing negotiations with brokers and landlords all the time. So the 6th and Main space is a space that we are continuously negotiating on because we're trying to figure out what's happening with PBOT, and BES is also trying to figure out what to do there. So yes, and there's great deals to be had, but many of the capital upgrades that we're talking about would still have to be made in those spaces. So there's a cost there. And then again,
Can we see the cost of evaluating that option?
We can
because
get that
I'm
information
not
for you.
sure that's been, I'm not privy to any, analysis of setting up temporary in 2025 while doing construction here.
Right, yeah, so right now, the current lease at that space is $620,000. In the negotiation that we have ongoing with them, in case we can't move in the direction of option 1, I believe the annual lease cost drops to about $420,000 to keep our space at 6th and Main through 2025.
Yeah, and I think we need to separately have a conversation about VS and water and some of the other leases that you made reasonable facility assumptions in evaluating that space, but that's all predicated on a decision you already made that that doesn't contemplate. I mean, if we stay here until the end of 2024, you don't have to kick anybody out of the building over there in 2024. So there's some assumption to underline when you're talking about water and BES that we don't have time to really dig into right now. I'm not questioning your evaluation of the portfolio, but what I am questioning is the assumption that makes the analysis that you made on BES and water. I think we can stay here until the end of 2024. It actually helps you there. We still have to address some longer term needs there, but we don't have the space for that right now. I'm only going to comment briefly on the.
So can I do this just because we are over? Commissioner Rubio has had her hand up for a while.
Yeah.
Then can we go to closing commentary? And I just want people to understand, we're all over the board, and that's fine. But we have a go, no go decision in front of us. And we're not going to make it today because this is a work session. We're not supposed to make decisions in a work session. But I at least want you to have a window on my world. I have to make a decision. And so your comments could certainly help inform that decision. Carmen, Commissioner Rubio, you had a question.
Thank you. And I'll forego my closing comments because I know we're late on time and this will be really my closing question, I guess.
Thank you.
I'm really curious about what other city properties you looked at. I know that my staff suggested looking at Prosper Portland building, but they're set up already with the commission to run commission meetings, et cetera. So I was curious about if you looked at that and what did you conclude? And also, have you looked at the 4th floor of City Hall and what was your analysis about the 4th floor as well? So yeah, those are my questions.
Yeah, we looked at Metro's site, we looked at the county's site, we looked at the 1900 building, and we looked at sort of private auditoriums available downtown. All of them required comparable upgrades to that which we have at the 1900 building. I don't know that we looked at the Portland Prosper site, but I'll have to look. Our space planners are not here, so I'll have to look and see if we did. But again, each one of these sites requires security upgrades, and usually AV and broadcasting upgrades to host a council session. With regard to fourth floor, I will probably kick that over to the two of you. And this would be fourth floor for office spaces.
So fourth floor has come up quite a bit. I'm Randy Sella, construction project manager of the MAC team for facilities. We would have to find a new home for the entire fourth floor. That's the attorney's offices and government relations. So that, I imagine, would require us to lease a space since we don't have the availability in any of our city buildings. So that would come at a cost. We'd also have significant time for design, another construction contract, build out, as well as purchasing furniture, which has a lengthy lead time as well. We just didn't have the time to accommodate that in the tight schedule we have. So that's why we've taken the approach we have, but that has come up quite a few times.
So there was no real analysis done on the Prosper Portland space?
I don't believe Prosper Portland is a city-owned building, is it?
But we thought that it was. I don't know if I'm.
Get back to her.
We'll have to get back to you. It's not a space that's surfaced in our survey. It's Shoshana has indicated it's a long-term lease, so. And again, all of these spaces will require the same types of upgrades that we are making to the 1900 building to ensure functional council chambers. They all require security and AV.
Thank you, and I'm really sorry, but I know people have 11 o'clock meetings, and I want to make sure we get to them. Commissioner Maps, do you want to start wrapping?
Yeah, I'll try to do this in about 90 seconds. I want to thank staff for today's presentation. I recognize this one was kind of a rough one, and I'll just close with two requests. I think facilities organized a tour of the 1900 building. My chief of staff went on that tour. She wrote a memo which she circulated to, I think, other chiefs expressing some concerns about that space in terms of council moving forward or moving into that space. I'd love it if we could have some sort of dialogue where we kind of dig into some of the issues that Ms. Rodriguez raises. Second request, and I don't even know what it quite is, but I'm just recognizing where we're at. A decision's going to be made this week, I'm told, or needs to be made this week. It's going to be made by the mayor. We got options 1, 2, or 3. We also clearly have a range of opinions and views expressed on council. And I just sure hope that, I don't know if it happens at the chief level or what, I hope there's a little bit more dialogue amongst council offices, just even if everyone hates the decision, at least we can kind of wrap up the next 13 months in a relatively efficient manner. And I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Renee, you want to?
Yeah, I appreciate it. I know this was difficult at times today. I appreciate the work that staff has done. I truly do, and the complexity of the trade-offs. I will say I am disappointed in some aspects of the process. I think the decision to move away from prioritizing district offices to centralization, I don't feel comfortable that being made inside the bureaucracy. And I'm being blunt. There should have been a public process in that, and there should have been more extensive engagement at minimum with electeds on the relative priority of centralized spaces versus district. I'm not saying it's the wrong decision. I just don't agree with the outcome. You couple, or the lack of processes, you couple that with the path that has been proposed by the bureaucracy maximizes the disruption of the existing form of government. And I've been clear from day one that we have dual mandates. We have to deliver charter reform implementation, and we have to confront the livability and crime problems on the streets of Portland. At least that was the way I interpreted my mandate from getting elected at the same time charter reform was approved. And that's kind of my second disappointment here. What you have proposed maximizes the disruption for our offices, My team is in the office 5 days a week, sometimes 6. We do as many in-person meetings as possible. I greatly appreciate the close proximity of my colleagues, and while I hear the technical answer about the transition of space, I share Commissioner Mapps's concern that once we move again, I don't know we ever put that back together again. And so I will also note there on the authority question, I think there's some open legal questions on this. There's a plan that's supposed to come back under the April ordinance to council to accept the report. We also approved the budget. So I don't necessarily want to get into a push and pull thing here on authority, but we approved the budget. We can revise budgets. And so I would leave it at that. And if we need to reevaluate what the April ordinance did and what it didn't do, we can do that. Hopefully, we can come to an outcome that is well supported across the board. And last but not least, what was quoted in the Oregonian, that wasn't necessarily specific to facilities. And it was unfortunate that a relatively private conversation gets out there without full context. I have some strong critiques of the way the mayor's team rolled this out over the last 2 weeks. I don't need to get into all of that right now. And so I'll leave it at that. That's not specific to you or to the facilities discussion. It was in the context of some broader disappointment. And with that, turn it over to Commissioner Ryan.
Okay, thank you. Maddie and the team from facilities, you've been working really hard. It's real clear. I learned a lot today. I will say that this is the first dialogue I've had with all of you about this. My chief of staff, we haven't been meeting on this topic. We've been focused on other items about the transition. So I will end my comments with that we need new options. I made those really clear at the beginning, and they weren't on the table today. I didn't see them up there. And so until those are factored in, I will be pushing back because I really think that we have to prioritize our constituents. And we have constituent offices, we have coalition offices that people are there. We have ways to mitigate this. And I always say I'm a public servant and my focus is on the principles of that. My personality about how I need the office to look and wait till everyone's here, that doesn't matter to me. What matters is the constituents we're serving and have that infrastructure set up on day one. That's what matters the most to me. So I'd prioritize that first. Council chambers, same time. They could be done at the same time. And I want to put out there again, I think we have much cheaper options on the renovation of these spaces. It looks like the voters picked 3 people that were supposed to work together in their district. I don't know why they can't share these suites that we currently have. And so they've all been kept up pretty nicely when we finally got to move in, of course. So I hope that we don't look at wasting the money that we've spent on those suites over the last few years. I will end with I know we're trying to be fiscally smart. I hope I offered some suggestions that would allow you to go back to the drawing board and add some more options now that we've been engaged in this conversation. And Mayor, I hope that we have a work session real soon on part 2 on this that includes those new options so we can help you make a collective decision. Thanks.
Commissioner Rubio, I know you said you were combining comments, but if you wanted to say, oh, she may have dropped off. She did. So I'll take a moment. First of all, colleagues, I just want to remind everybody, this is not something the mayor's office is doing to you. This was the voters of our community deciding how they wanted to be governed. And believe me, we have plenty of work in our office around public safety, homelessness, livability, and economic recovery to keep us busy well beyond the end of my term. So this is added. I want to thank my staff for their hard work on this. This is in addition to the other duties that they have. I want to thank city staff. I want to thank everybody sitting at this table who's worked very hard on this. I do have one bit of light I'd like to shed on the district question, because Commissioner Ryan raised an interesting and provocative point, and maybe we should have a work session on it. I'm all for it. I think more work sessions rather than less on this subject is important to put the questions in the light of day, to make sure we're sharing information, having these discussions. But think about how thorny this is for a minute. District 4, where would you put the office? Would you put it in Linton? Would you put it in Multnomah Village? Would you put it downtown? Would you put it in Selwood? All of those are part of that district. And yes,
Let's.
no, North Portland is in District 4. And so, the question I have is, if you have 3 people elected from 3 very different neighborhoods, and they want to have an office in their neighborhood for a particular reason, or maybe they don't want to have an office in their neighborhood for a particular reason, that seems like a decision we should leave to them. That's just my personal view. I think we get into some very thorny territory if this council starts deciding how the next council is going to interact with the public. I have no problem from an operational perspective talking about city chambers or where they would sit or do their work when they come to City Hall, but when we talk about how they're actually going to interact with the public who directed these changes, I feel like they need to have a disproportionate say over us. That's just my perspective. Nobody has to agree, and apparently nobody does. It's another day at the office. I also look forward to a work session. My colleagues put a lot of effort into an alternative proposal around the organizational chart. I'd like to learn more. So I'm hoping you guys will work together and put a time on the books when we can come together and discuss that as well. So with that, colleagues, thank you. Great conversation. I appreciate it. We're adjourned.